Happy Friday and welcome back to Drinking by Myself. Sorry this is not alcohol today. I was in a wine drinking mood. I would have loved some wine, but I didn't have any in the house. I'm trying not to spend any money, so I didn't go buy any. I just made myself a cup of tea. Still drinking though, in it. So in this video, I'm going to talk about a rather niche subgenre of books that I think might be my favourite genre of books, and that is novels that pretend that they're not novels. Do you know what I mean? Is that a thing that people like other than me? I bloody love it. That tea is too hot. We'll come back to you, tea. So a big example of this type of novel that is everywhere right now, everyone on BookTube is loving it for good reason, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This is one of my favourite books that I've read so far this year. I've already raved about it on this channel. Everyone's raving about it, but it's absolutely deserved. I might even like it more than Evelyn Hugo. I don't know, that might not be true. It's very soft. That's not interesting to you because you can't feel it, but this is very soft. This inside here too, also very soft. When I say that this is a novel that pretends not to be a novel, what I mean by that is this is a novel that pretends to be the transcript of some interviews with all of the members of the band The Six and Daisy Jones and related people. And Taylor Jenkins Reid has really lent into that pretending. Her author's note is literally her saying that she attempted to piece together over the course of 8 years individual interviews with all of these people. So she's truly leaning in and saying this is a true story and I have just collected the transcripts and put them together for you. It's so good. So that's what I mean when I say it pretends not to be a novel. And it's a wonderful, beautiful story. Taylor Jenkins Reid is just amazing at writing about all the different kinds of love. So this book, if you haven't already watched me rave about it or watched other people rave about it, is about this band and the singer Daisy Jones, and they come together, and it is a love story of sorts between Daisy Jones and the main character of the band, but not a conventional love story because he is married to somebody else. And I'm not going to say too much, but it's not like what you think of when I say it's a love story. And I love reading about fake famous people. So fun. I've heard, who is it who hates that? Possibly Books and Lala? There is some booktuber who has specifically said that they don't like books about famous people. And I'm the opposite, because if I see it's about a famous person, I instantly want to read it. So yeah, that's that. This is one of my favourites, if not my absolute top favourite books I've read so far in 2019, and I fully want to believe that it is not a novel. I fully can just picture everyone in the band, I can hear their songs. I did at some point Google The Six to see if they were real. Okay, I've got a 2-in-1 for my next one. This is a good little pair, they go together. The Handmaid's Tale and The Power. So these books are of a similar genre. They're both feminist dystopias. The authors knew each other. Naomi Alderman was kind of mentored by Margaret Atwood, so they're similar. And aside from the themes that is similar in their work, they also are both novels that are pretending not to be novels. So in The Handmaid's Tale, the whole way through you could read it as a novel, but right at the end, it jumps forward in time, and it's as if this whole thing has been told in a lecture, and there's a historian piecing together what happened and how this government came about, basically. And again, it's written as historical notes on The Handmaid's Tale, as if these are real historical notes, and that Gilead, is that the name of the state? I think Gilead was a real state, and we're looking back to try and work out how it happened. And this one, similar kind of vibe. So it opens as if it is someone submitting a historical theory for a book to their editor. So that letter is written in the context as if it's in the future and we're living in a matriarchy. So it's a male author writing to his female editor, and it's funny the way that she kind of flips the way that we subconsciously talk to men or men talk to us. In this, the female editor is very, very condescending to the male author. And he, Neil Adam Armon, which you may notice is an anagram of Naomi Alderman, but she's pretending that no, he wrote this book. He has written this theory that it wasn't always a matriarchy, and that possibly in the past men used to be in charge before women got this power and overthrew them. And she's like, psh, what a theory, no way. Women must always have been in charge is the only thing that possibly makes sense because we're by far the superior sex. So that's a very interesting way of subverting the idea that some people hold now that men are just naturally stronger, naturally more powerful, natural leaders, In this book, it's a woman making the exact opposite case. So if we lived in a matriarchy, it suggests that women might feel like we had always been naturally stronger and naturally more powerful. That letter though is only the very beginning and end. The main bit of the book describes his theory of women getting power and overtaking men, or overthrowing men. It's very interesting, and it's violent, and it's scary, and it shows the problems with anyone having power over another group. It's not just that men have power and they're really terrible, it's that we would be just as terrible. We should just stop having power over each other. Cool, cool, cool. A really bizarre one coming up next that is very hard to explain, but trust me, it's even harder to read. This is House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. Okay, so where to even start with this? So we have a character called Johnny Truant. He lives in ostensibly the real world, and he meets this guy called Zampano, who has written this massive great collection of notes, this very, very heavily annotated academic work dissecting a film, a documentary film called The Navidson Record. So we're already 3 layers to this story. The Navidson Record is a documentary about the Navidson family moving into this supernatural, mysterious house, and all of these really creepy things happen. And the house is bigger on the inside than on the outside, and it's very spooky and very scary. So Johnny Truant finds this book about this film, but Johnny Truant has never heard of this film and can't find any evidence that this film ever existed. So it's not so much that this novel is pretending not to be a novel, it's not claiming that the Navidson Record exists in real life, because it doesn't even exist in here, but it does very much play with what novels generally look like, because a lot of the time what you're reading is Zampano's book about the Navidson Record. So it's literally his notes, his academic text. It's got footnotes that you have to read that refer you to academic texts. Of course, none of them exist. It's laid out really bizarrely. It's fucking exhausting to read. It took me months. It'll leave you completely and utterly confused about what you are supposed to believe, what in the book is even supposed to be true or not true. Maybe none of them exist. I don't know. If you go online, there are so many people who love this book and have read it multiple times and completely analysed all of their theories. You can go down such a rabbit hole. I feel like I did not understand it enough to be able to go down that rabbit hole with them, but I love that it exists, and I'm really tempted one day to just quit my job and quit my life and devote myself to just understanding this book, because it would take that much commitment. Okay, another really weird one is, I don't even know what to call this, S. We'll call it S, by J.J. Abrams and Doug Dorst. But technically, once you take off the cover that says S, there is no sign that this book is called S. There is no sign that this is anything other than a genuine library book called Ship of Theseus. And this is very cool. I didn't love the actual story in this book. I wasn't actually gripped by it, but the execution of this is absolutely amazing. Just the production value, I don't know how they did it. So this looks entirely like a library book. It's got the little sticker, it feels really old, it's this lovely hardback. If I didn't have that S dust jacket, I just took it off. That's not called dust jacket, is it? Whatever, the slipcase thingy. And I just found this, I would 100% believe this was an old book from the library. I kind of want to leave it somewhere and just film someone's reaction to it. When you open it up, I'm scared to do it in case everything falls out, it is absolutely crammed full of removable documents. The pages have writing on them that looks like real pen, and there's I don't know how much, well you can see on the camera, there's different colours, different people writing in it. There's maps in here, there are postcards in here. It's absolutely incredible. It's so well done. And it's a story within a story within a story. So there's the actual text, the book Ship of Theseus, which you can read, and then there are annotations on it. There are people writing letters to each other or notes to each other back and forth in the library, analysing the book, and then also a story develops between the two of them. There's a love story. Then there are these extra bits, which are another layer. I can't even remember. Oh, there's a code breaker. I can't even remember what this was used for, but there's a code breaker. It's wild. It is a wild ride. And I don't necessarily, as I said, recommend it, because at this point I've already forgotten what the story was because it wasn't that good. But I love this as an experiment, and I love this as an item to own. And I would love to see what happened if someone found this not knowing what it is, because it is so effectively a novel that pretends it's not a novel that you genuinely nowhere on here would get any clue that this is a novel. And again, like in House of Leaves, there is a lot of internet forums and stuff devoted to analysing it, and again, I would love to one day have the energy to go down that rabbit hole too. Okay, I've got a couple that aren't here. I've got a book that I don't own, and actually I haven't read the finished version. It's called American Pop by Snowden Wright, and I read an early version of it when I used to work for a literary agency, and I completely fell in love with it. And I can see how it wouldn't be for everyone, but I really enjoyed it, and now I really want to buy the finished product and read and see how much it's changed. But that is a book that is pretending it is history. And once again, I found myself Googling certain things to see if they were real. So it's pretending that it is the history of this family, this kind of dynasty of a family who the great-grandfather invented panola, which is like a fictional drink that's like Coca-Cola basically. So it kind of sets off this family dynasty. And it jumps back and forth in time all the time, like constantly, more than anything I've ever read before. It's a completely bizarre thing to read. There's no like chronological order to it at all. And everything in it is dictated as if it is completely fact. So I think some people might not love it because it's not like a novel. You're not getting a lot of beautiful descriptions and this kind of character insight. It's presented as if it's fact. Like he will even say in the text, you know, some historians think that she was motivated by this, blah blah blah. It's very much as if it's just you're reading a history book and you're analysing what happened to this family. But it was so well done that I completely fell in love with it, and completely like fell in love with all the members of the family. I mean, a lot of them are total dicks, so fall in love with them is not quite the right word, but it's sad, and like the fact that it jumps back and forth so much is really interesting because you really see so much cause and effect. It's a novel that pretends not to be a novel. It pretends to be a history of a family, and to be honest, I would think it was an absolutely fascinating book if it was the history of this real family. Like I kind of wanted that to be truth, and for me to be finding out the ins and outs of this fascinating family. But the fact that he just invented it all is really cool. Great imagination, Snowden Wright. Another one that I don't have because I read it on, I listened to the audiobook, is You Don't Know Me by Imran Mahmood. And that one is a novel that is pretending to be the transcript of a court hearing. It is just the defendant's case. Is that right? And it works so well as an audiobook because he's speaking to you and it's like narrated by this actor, and it's very good. It's like you're actually listening to it. So right at the beginning, he stands up and he's like, forget what my lawyer wanted me to say, I'm going to tell you the truth. Here is everything you need to know about me. And you never even find out his name, he just speaks. And the whole book, what you're listening to, is him speaking. And you don't know, you're trying to figure out while he's talking where the story is going, whether he is innocent or guilty of the crime that he's been accused of. And there's a lot of twists and turns along the way, and a lot of you changing your mind about what you think. But at the same time, he's making like a bigger point. The novel is making this bigger point about the way that society forces people down certain paths and the unfairness of it, and how oppressive that can be. So whether or not he is innocent or guilty of this crime, it's still making this point. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. I liked that one. And then finally, I've talked about this one before, you know I'm gonna say this one, but a novel that pretends not to be a novel is The Princess Bride by William Goldman. This book pretends, well, okay, here's the thing. It's a novel that pretends to be a novel, but it isn't the novel it's pretending to be. It's so confusing. So, William Goldman himself, the actual author, appears as a character in this, but the character he appears at isn't actually his real self. But he references like real movies he's worked on, so you're very much supposed to kind of see it as this is William Goldman, he's off working, he's calling home to his son, and he sends his son a copy of this book called The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern. And The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern is William Goldman's favourite book. And he writes about this as if it's an entirely true statement. It's his favourite book, his father used to read it to him. But when he sends it to his son starts to read it and is like, Dad, this is really boring. And William Goldman looks at it and he's like, oh, you're right, it is really boring. My dad always used to just cut straight to the exciting parts. So seeing as I'm away travelling for work, I'm going to write you an abridged version. Or just create you an abridged version, just cuts bits out, and then I'll send it to you and then you can read that one. So then what happens is we read the abridged version of The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern with a few notes in it from William Goldman talking about the bits that he cut out and why. So essentially it's like this book, the famous Princess Bride that you've seen the movie version of, is actually an abridged version of an older, less exciting book, and William Goldman has written the foreword for why he abridged it. You could happily read this book and believe that to be the case. But of course, The Princess Bride by S. Morgenstern does not exist. S. Morgenstern does not exist. William Goldman made him up and wrote the story, and he didn't cut anything out because there was nothing to cut out. He just made that up. It's a very odd way of introducing a story, but it is so unique, and that is why this is my favourite type of book. And it allows for you to constantly be laughing at the fact that he's writing about a book that he wrote and saying like, isn't this the best book ever? And he wrote it. I love that. And again, it is entirely committing to that pretense, because even on the cover here, it is called The Princess Bride. If you look closely here, it says the good parts version abridged by William Goldman. So you could look at that and entirely believe that he just did abridge this book and that's what they're selling. Magic, lies, deceit. I love it. So that's my collection of novels that are pretending not to be novels. Such a fun genre of book. Let me know if you have any recommendations, because I really enjoy that concept. And tell me if you hate that concept. I know some people who have said that they much prefer the movie version of The Princess Bride because they hate that whole backstory. Those people are wrong, but you know, it's a valid opinion, a valid wrong opinion to have. So let me know if you're one of those wrong but valid people. And do give this video a thumbs up if you liked any of those books, and hit that subscribe button below because I post new videos every Friday. See you next time!